Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome, fellow explorers of sound and rhythm. You're tuned into Time Zone and Time Meters, a weekly meetup on Zoom where two prog heads from the other sides of the world discuss music spanning borders, styles, and eras. I'm your host, Josh. You can find me on Instagram as the Prog Wanderer, and that's Simon, whichever way we sort of post you on there,
Okay.
who's my co-host today. And you can also find him on Instagram too by checking out Simon's album reviews. Now, I did just say then today, but you are always the other host. So if anything, it's I don't know. I feel
I'm the
weird calling
co-host.
myself. Yeah, I feel weird calling myself a host as well. But because it's definitely a I don't know. It doesn't
It's,
matter.
it's a joint effort, but
Yeah,
you're just
that's
doing
right.
these introductions so good.
That's right. Because it's apparently you like to put me on the spot instead of yourself. I got it. So today we're going to be talking about sort of doing a monthly sort of wrap up for April, right? So we're going to be launching into that. And as normal, we're going to pick three bands we've been listening to or albums we've been listening to, and just have a bit of a chat about those. Did you want to get started, Simon, to get us
Sure.
going today?
Yeah. I have to say that like last time we did this in March, there had been like this super month with Steven Wilson, and Jethro Tull. At least were my big releases there. This month I have to say, no new releases has really caught my attention or ears enough that I spent any significant amount of time with. So I was almost thinking like, do I have to cancel this? But then I thought, well, I have not been listening any less to music than I'm usually do. So it's been like, well, for one thing, I've been digging a bit back in time, like almost nostalgia tripping to music that was released 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, old metal and lots of progressive metal, but other kinds of metal as well. Um, but also, I've been digging in the backlog and with the old, really old prog. And if my backlog is a rubble of stones, then on top of that mountain, there's a big boulder that consists of the big six prog bands from the British six prog bands, those pioneers. I'm of course then talking about Genesis, Jethro Tull, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, uh, Pink Floyd, King Crimson, and Yes, like those
Is that
uh,
seven, six?
six, yeah, and that are like the biggest ones that kind of were there from the start, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
I almost feel like if I haven't heard every record from these six bands, can I even call myself a prog fan? That's a little bit how I feel. Um, so it's always like I always go back to there, like what albums are still missing because I still have maybe three albums. I've come down to maybe three, four albums per band, and I mean some of these bands have 20 albums in their discography, so it takes its time. So what I've been listening this month from these bands with Genesis, I'm up to Duke at this point. I I, st- I still got some late 70s stuff that I haven't taken care of there. Um, Jethro Tull, like this really early stuff, Stand Up is the latest one I listened to by Jethro Tull. Um, the self-titled one, the debut from Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Oh, that one is a chef's kiss. You should listen to that one. Pink Floyd is like one of those um, old loves of mine. So there have been not. It's not even well, it's an official release, but it's a compilation of their early stuff. Obfusc dash Asian. No, no clue how you're supposed to pronounce that stuff, but
I got no idea.
obfuscation, is that even an English word?
Yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah,
is. It is.
yeah. Okay. Well, obfuscation. So stuff from '68 to '72. I've been spending a lot of time with. Finally got to King Crimson's Three of a Perfect Pair. So like the last one of their '80s stuff, because they released three albums in the '80s that were very different from what they released in the '70s. Um, and then I think I'm kind of yeah, I kind of heard everything by King Crimson actually. I think I can check that off. Um, and finally, yes, I've spent times on both end of the spectrum, both with the first two records there. The Time in a Word, I think is the last one I spent, but I also been into the '80s with a big generator and stuff like that, which I appreciate less than the stuff from the late '60s. So yeah, that's I guess is the first boulder of the backlog is that is yes, yeah, yeah,
Dude,
or well,
that's
this
a
big
lot.
six, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was just gonna say that I'm so much less fluent in this kind of progressive world than what you are. And so my idea is to always sort of go back and check it out and, and then I launch into my other things and then I come back and check one album out. But at the rate I'm going to go, I'll be 110 before I even get close to what you've overlooked, because that's a lot of albums, man. That's a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of albums.
yeah. In total, that has to be like I don't know. I mean, over 100 albums. Uh, what these six bands has made, and then we're just talking about the studio stuff, right? But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but yeah, of course, what it then means is there's only so much time in this world, and yeah, so I'm missing out a little bit on new releases a lot or new bands. Um, but yeah, I kind of feel like I want to check this off, cross this off, and it's really I mean I really appreciate these bands, and of course, uh, to be honest, bands that are on the same of the same era, like Camel, that I know you appreciate as well. I think they should belong into these big six as well. But yeah, they're of course just a little bit later, so I guess they weren't really creating prog rock in the same amount that these six bands did. But I mean, there's lots of bands from this era, of course. It's it's the first wave, the real where it actually was played on the radio as well. Yeah.
No, mate, I think that's really cool. And look, this is one of the reasons why this is such a good little like meet up each week, is because I think we really do hit opposite sides of the so this world. And
Yeah.
so it's awesome because you get a chance to give me information and I get a chance to find out where sort of your head's at and get that sort of view. And hopefully the viewers at home will get the same sort of out of that too. And then hopefully I don't know, I like my modern stuff a little bit more. And by modern, I mean the last 10 years
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
20 years, as opposed to stuff that's 50 years ago soon,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. More in some
yeah,
cases.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah. Because yeah, the 80s is now, yeah, 45
40s.
years ago or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's scary.
Yikes.
But but in saying that, I think that's why it's so complimentary, and that's
Yeah.
why I'm really looking forward to continuing this sort of online friendship, and hopefully we'll continue to sort of bounce stuff off each other. And when I find something that's really, really good, I'll let you know, and obviously vice versa. And
What
hopefully
what
you guys at home can join.
what modern
What was
stuff
that?
have you been listening to, young man?
Oh, I've actually been sort of finishing up what I was doing last month as well. So I didn't want to like mention the same bands, but I've still been listening to those. So Calandra and Parias have been getting a bit of my attention. Charlotte Wessels is now sort of on the back burner. I'm not really looking at her too much anymore. But in saying that, I've sort of continued my exploration of a band called The Old Dead Tree. And they have an album release called Second Thoughts. And look, it's really like it's quite interesting. I shared a few sort of videos and discussions with one or two people on Instagram, and they've already bought records, like hard copy records, like about 24 hours after listening to it. So I mean, it does sort of delve into, I guess you'd call it, yeah, like a like a gothic doom kind of vibe, or at least that's what I read online. And there is some harsh vocals, which is very not me. However, I'm kind of quite liking it. There's some really really catchy like songs in there, and it just it's sort of, I don't know. There's something about it. So maybe this could be one of those albums where I get a chance to sort of delve into and maybe expand my horizons, and maybe I'll eventually crack the harsh lyrics and harsh vocals sort of thing, if you know what I mean. But they've been really good, actually, really good, and I've been enjoying that. So I think, I don't know, I feel like I've played through the album maybe like 7 or 8 times, maybe 7 times. So I'm really starting to become more familiar with the tracks. They've kind of, I don't know, they've got this. I think if I remember correctly, they're from France, or France, depending on your accents. Um, but yeah, I'm just having a quick look. I'm pretty sure they
Dead
are
Old
anyway.
Tree, did you say that?
Yeah, The Dead Old
The
Tree.
Dead
And the
Old Tree.
album's called Second Thoughts. It was
Mm.
released in at the end of 2024. Um, yeah, the little review that I've got written up here says they have a gloomy sound. Apparently, Catatonia fans like them. That's probably how I came across them. They say it's quite haunting, progressive, melodic. I'd agree. Um,
What makes it unique,
Look, I think it's
if it
really
is?
quite well. It definitely is. It's quite catchy, and I think that the vocalist is quite good too. He's got a really great range, so he goes from sort of harsh vocals, but he's got a sort of lovely, sort of clean vocal as well. Um, it just means that he can kind of do different things, and he does within that one album as well. And you find that there's this lovely sort of organic flow between each one of the tracks, where he sort of starts off with something sort of lighter, something that gives off maybe more of a, to me, I don't know, more of sort of an alternative rock kind of vibe, and then they start to shift into the heavier stuff and then come back again. They
That sounds
use
good.
they use repetition really really well too, just long enough not to go, oh, for God's sake, stop saying the same thing over and over and over, but enough to really make it a memorable moment. So you don't need to listen to the album very much to sort of be able to sing along to maybe a chorus or whatever as well. I think we've got a pretty sort of immersive sort of atmosphere at times too. And I think we've mentioned this before. I absolutely love like when an album has space. And so if you've got something that's like a wall of sound or something that's coming at you, and then you're able to just kind of dissolve that a little bit, and then have like a funky rhythm or something afterwards, and I'm sort of sold, right? So I really like them. I think they're definitely worth checking out. And yeah, if you like to maybe the sound of what I just went on, that's probably the next one. Did you want to talk about any others, or do you want me to mention a few now and just finish, like go through my stuff too?
I have more. Oh yeah, for certain, for certain. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I said, I've been listening a lot to music this month, and of course, what we are doing is we're preparing for a Soen discography review. So of course, I've been listening a lot to Soen. I'm not going to spoil that, but what I really, they really reopened for me when researching this. So I got really hooked on them again. And of course, the thing with Soen is it's a relatively new band. They're around 15 years old, right? Or at least been releasing records for 15 years old. So there's only 6 records, studio albums to listen to. And then you sit there going, okay, what now? I want more of this, you know?
Yeah, because you're used to these 20 album like
Yeah,
discography, like
yeah.
classic masters you've been
I'm
doing
used to
lately.
being overwhelmed that there's too many, too much to
Yeah.
listen to. So then I was, going all okay. What do I listen to now? Of course, I know that the drummer is from Opeth, but it was not what I wanted to listen to. So I thought, well, the other band members then, and of course, like a little bit the selling point with Soen is of course the singer Joel or Joel. So I was thinking, okay, should I check out what he's been releasing before he joined Soen, and he was in this band Willow Tree, um, which is a bit too radio rock for me. But I thought I have to check it out. It was not quite my cup of tea. It has some qualities, especially they released one album, as far as I'm concerned, and the second half of that album is way better than the first half. Um, but then I went further. I was looking at the guitarist Marcus Gidel, because he then has this band together with the bass player of Candlemass. Do you know the band Candlemass? Okay, then
No,
we have a
no.
little history lesson here in Swedish metal, because he was the Candlemass is like one of those pioneers within doom metal. They in like the second half of the 80s, they released the album or their debut album Epicus Doomicus Metallicus. So the kind of like making the doom metal, uh, like making that a term.
Yeah.
And well, yeah. So that is a band I've been listening to in the past, and when putting on this new, relatively new band, uh, we're still talking like 10 years ago. Their debut album, let's see here, they are called Avatarium, and it sounds just like Candlemass. So it's like this heavy old, like Black Sabbath's heaviest stuff, like from like their eponymous track, super heavy. And then I just expect the operatic voice of the Candlemass singer. They had a couple, but I then think of Messiah Marcolin, which is the singer from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And but instead they have a female singer, so it's very different because of the vocals, but it's awesome, and it still has like some, what do you call it, intricacy that Marcus Gidel is contributing with the guitar work. So it has that heavy, and then it's not just simple. It gets into it's very good. It's very good. I have to check out. They probably released like 6 7 albums, I think, by now.
Yeah.
So I really have to check out the rest of this discography. But I have to say, Avatarium, at least the debut album. I see that even this year they also released an album, but I haven't gotten to it yet. But yeah, that's a recommendation. If
Maybe
you
that can
also
be
heavy
next
stuff.
month.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows? If I
I saw
yeah,
that you were posting a few things on Instagram with, like, you were obviously just highlighting one or two songs from them. So
yeah,
I know I clicked on two of them and just sort of saved them so I can
yeah,
go back to it and check them out later. So I'll eventually get there for sure,
yeah.
because there was some really cool sounds, in the stuff that you shared before too.
And the I think the vocalist or the what do you call it, even a singer, a female singer.
Yeah.
With,
So
yeah.
I call them a singer or a vocalist as well.
Yeah. Of course, there's no masculine and feminine words in the English, but she reminds me a bit of the Kaipa, um, Kaipa singer. Her name is Gibson, Alina Gibson. Yeah,
No, I'm not sure.
Alina Gibson. Yeah,
Right.
right.
No, that's cool. That's cool. I think I've been jumping around, as I said, a few female vocalists lately, quite deliberately as well. I've just wanted to, I don't know, sort of expand what I've been listening to, and hence, why we're spending some time in Calandra as well. Um, I've continued like a few other things in the background as well. I did a review for A Perfect Circle for my Instagram. So I reviewed a few of their albums and specifically delve into sort of Murder Noms, which I'm sure you'd be pretty familiar with as well.
Sorry, what?
But Murder Noms, it's called. and I wasn't planning on talking about it, but I totally can if you want to. But yeah, A Perfect Circle, they released, from my knowledge, have released 3 albums. This is the lead singer of Tools. I think it's Maynard's like second project, because he also has Pussifier as well. And so this one here is a bit of a super group. The drummer was from, I can't remember what the other band was. As I said, I'm not prepared at all to talk about these guys. I was just going to make a quick reference to the fact that I'd check them out. But look, the album was um, pretty significant to me. Look, why not? I'm switching things up. I'll talk about this one. The reason I find it so interesting is because when I first heard this album, I love that sort of industrial tech metal sort of vibe that it has. I love the guitar work. I just love that sort of crunchiness that it had. But it was pretty confronting. Like, I grew up in a Christian sort of family, come from a Christian background, and Maynard doesn't pull any punches as an atheist. And so quite a few of the tracks in this um, album, he kind of has a real go at sort of religion. And one song specifically, Judith, which was sort of a big hit on that album, was a song about his mum, who had sort of a degenerative disease and who maintained her faith throughout, his life. And he just got so angry at it, because he just was so angry that she had this, terrible disease, and that she was really suffering, but he couldn't work out why she would maintain her faith. And so the whole song is a commentary on that and sort of smacking at it. So the reason I bring this up is because when I first heard the album, it was a little bit confronting to me, especially when I sort of chose to sort of put on the back burner and maybe come back to it later. But what's interesting is I have. And within, I don't know, every 5 years or so, I come back to this album. And now, as someone who's 20 years older, who has very different life views, and I believe I've sort of, I don't know, sort of grown and changed, not just as a music listener, but also, just through personal development, I guess. I find that it says a lot about how much my perspectives have changed. And to tell you the truth, I can see some real similarities between my childhood, young adulthood, my background, and what sort of Maynard's sort of putting forward in this album as well. So it's for me, I love it. I love going back to it and just kind of going, oh, wow, that's just sick. Sounds good. I love it. It's intricate. It's got some lots of different layers that are there as well. A great sound, and it's pretty. I don't know. I think it's pretty emotionally delivered. And there's also some progressive bits. Like, it's definitely got a few really progressive tracks in it. I think it's Rose. I'm going off memory, as I said. I think it's like the second or third track in it. It's quite progressive, and at the end it finishes with some strings out of nowhere, and you're just going like, where did the I think it's a cello or something come in. But it's a highly recommended album if you guys haven't. And I don't know. I just like reflecting
and worth
back on
paying attention to the lyrical content, if I understand it.
Yeah, I think so. And you can make your own mind up, and if it's something that's not your sort of thing, then that's fine. But I'm always interested in hearing other people's opinions on life, world, war, religion, all of these things. And I think
is it like on your face, or is it a bit poetic, or like, is it a bit,
no, he punches you in the face.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, he just like, I think Judith's he's literally saying it's not like you threw a hateful spear into his side. He's referring to the big line in it is, he did it all for you, referring to sort of sarcastically that Jesus died, for people's sins. So he's by no means pulling punches. And he just sort of throws it all out there. And so there's quite a bit of anger, and there's a lot of I don't know, like really intense sort of emotional backdrop behind some of the stuff in it, which I think is probably its greatest attribute too. It's heavy, it's chunky, it's cool, and just sounds good. Oh, and the other thing that's great about it is the mixing of it. Like, the way this has been put together, it is one of the cleanest sounding and best produced albums I think I've heard. Like, I think it is top notch, and you just want a really good pair of headphones on, so you can listen to it, and just sort of pick it apart, because the layering is beautiful, and I think he really nails just the unique sound throughout it too.
Cool. Yeah, it is one of those bands that are definitely in that pile of my backlog. I spent some time with them, but not enough. Which goes for Tool as well, I have to say. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like that with Tool too. I'm familiar with like two of their albums, pretty familiar with them, but they're always the band that I should go back to and don't quite get there. But this one's much more easily digestible. So for those that have trouble with Tool and their sort of creativity and the complexity that they have, this is much more mainstream. This is much more mainstream, kind of like tech or industrial kind of alternative metals. Really.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, hit us up. What's next?
Okay, so an observation that I've made is people are making up new genres for existing for existing music. Have you noticed this as well? Or like making up new names for like one thing that have you seen anything? Have you noticed anything? Your sound is off.
Oh, you can't go on Spotify and you can't go on like any of these things without finding that every band has like 12 tags now. And it's everything from just like a mood description, like happy metal or melancholy metal or something like that. But there's heaps and so many labels out there, right? Well, what are the ones that you're laughing at?
Well, now you're even talking about these sub genres. But I've noticed that like and this is the thing. Apparently what in the 80s was called AOR is not even called AOR anymore. It's called yacht rock. And apparently what was radio rock in like the 90s and zeros, we're talking about like Nickelback and stuff like that. It is called the butt rock. How long has that been called butt rock?
I've never heard of butt rock before, and it sort of makes me raise my eyebrows.
I see these in music discussions, like they refer to butt rock for those kinds of bands, and they refer to like Toto and bands like that. They call yacht rock, and like this old school soul from like the early 70s and 60s, where everything was a little bit experimental and maybe a bit thick in the weed smoke. They call that progressive rock. Oh, sorry, progressive soul. But no one at that time has talked about progressive soul. But I've seen now people are referring to that as progressive soul.
I've never heard that term before.
but yeah, anyway, I spent some time with.
I have heard yacht rock though. I have heard yacht rock.
Yeah. I think that
I'm not sure
maybe
when
the most established of these.
Yeah, because I just in my head, if I think yacht rock, I think soft. I think like 80s, like 70s, 80s, kind of soft, pretty,
Yeah, Fleetwood Mac,
exactly,
that
that sort of stuff. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I have been spending some time with a progressive soul. So, well, basically, just those old nice soul from Isaac Haayes and Curtis Mayfield, especially, I would say. And I just like that time period because then it was okay to let music take its time. Everything was a bit experimental. There's music also there. You have music that is 10 minutes, 15 minutes, a side long of the LP, just one track, letting it go far out there, putting on some repetitive, grooves, adding, some congas, some percussion, and just feeling it, this is just, between. I'm not going to make any big conversation about it, but I have been really appreciating like those early records of Isaac Haayes and Curtis Mayfield, and it fulfills the same kind of things that a lot of like the spacier prog rock does as well to me, like Pink Floyd or Eloy and stuff like that. But it's of course also cool in a way that it's the Black American, like it was not so. It's like on just after the Jim Crow laws got abandoned, so it's like it has some proper power in it, like political power, which is, yeah, it's cool. It's cool in a way that maybe the white prog rock from Britain isn't, yeah.
Yeah, with those influences, it just sort of gives you a different sound, different
Now you
vibe,
feel the
different listen,
history
right?
is
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah,
cool.
yeah. That's my third thing for this.
Sort of a little section. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I've got so I always troll the internet looking for best of lists, and this one got a few special mentions on one or two people's like best of the decade sort of albums. And I just want to make sure I say it properly. The World is a Beautiful Place, and I'm No Longer Afraid to Die is the name of the band. So the worst thing about this band is trying to look them up because
This sounds like it's gonna be post rock.
it does, doesn't it? And the interesting thing is that this album that I'm listening to, which was called Illusory Walls, is definitely got some sort of post-rock sort of vibes about it too. The band apparently originally come from a bit of an emo background, and they've had a few different sort of iterations and stuff. And I have not explored their previous discography at all. But I saw the reviews for this, and I thought I'll chuck that on and have a look at it. And I've been just it's been on a slow burn, just occasionally checking in on it, probably for the last 2 or 3 months. But it's not until this month that it kind of went and it clicked. And when it clicked, I just went, oh shit, I love this. It's got this. So it's got two vocalists. The primary vocalist is definitely got that slightly emo kind of vocal sort of tone, but he's supported by a female backup vocalist as well, and the two of them together just create this really cool little harmony as they go. And it definitely has this, I don't know, the cool thing about this album, it's got this juxtaposition between these sort of light, airy kind of lyrics, but also it's got this sort of melancholy that sort of sits underneath it as well. And so from my knowledge and what I read about it, Illusory Walls was released just in after COVID. And so the Illusory Walls is of course referring to the fact that everyone's in lockdown, and that it's kind of maybe not directly speaking about it, but talking about the barriers that end up in our lives that might not necessarily exist, if you will. But look, it's really cool sort of album. It finishes with two longer tracks. I think there's like 30 minutes in the last two tracks of the album, so you can kind of get caught up in them. Illusory Josh is an easy name to remember because my name's Josh, everyone. But that is a really, really cool song or track to check out. I love that to me, it's got this feeling of like three individual songs within it, and it kind of builds off a theme and tune and gets more complex, and you hit a bit of a crescendo and then it drops into the next section and it does the same. And I don't know, it's got this, it's very satisfying to listen to because it sort of it goes somewhere with the tune and builds off it. The band uses a lot of like looping as well. So you'll have like a single sound that'll be looped over and over and over again. And that's where I like the experimentation that comes out of it as well. So I don't know, look, I think it's definitely worth checking out. It could be worth having a look at once or twice and then coming back to it once or twice like I have, because when the mood's right, this has become definitely probably one of my more favorite albums to listen to. Yeah, I really, really enjoy it. Yeah.
It sounds like my backlog has just grown a little again.
Yeah. I'm glad.
I heard a sound.
That's that's right. It's like this dunk noise, right? Because there's just so much stuff in there. But I find the same thing every time you're referring to stuff and talking about it as well. But this is really cool. I don't know. I think it's a very, very, very thoughtful album. And apparently all of the members of the group made their section while in lockdown in isolation.
Oh, yeah.
So they all built their part of the song not together. And then they put it together. And so I think, like, from based on what I read, it's a bit more layered because of it. And so they've kept a lot of it and tried to make it all work together. And I think they've really stumbled across this really sort of wonderful combination of things.
It's like Atom Heart Mother by Pink Floyd. But then they were
Oh,
not in
right.
lockdown, but they.
Yeah. It's got that sort of similarities with the different, like, people contributing in those ways too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So look, it sounds to me like both of us have had a pretty good month in terms of exploring lots of different things. And yeah, I know I'll have to talk about the other one that I popped up another time anyway. We might discuss sort of Vola in some more detail another time. But how's about we leave it there, Simon? I thoroughly enjoyed this session this week. That was really, really cool. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone at home. If you could do us a favor and press the big thumbs up symbol, subscribe, and help us out with the algorithm, that would be great, especially if you enjoyed the session. As you said, Simon, we're going to be delving into Soen's discography.
Don't miss that.
I've been
No.
doing. Yeah, right. So I've been doing a bit of a deep dive into that stuff as well in the background. So I'm super keen to be able to talk about that stuff. But otherwise, we'll leave everyone on that little cliffhanger. What do you reckon?
Yeah. So
and we might
you stayed with us for this long. Don't miss out next week. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, until we see you guys later, we'll talk soon. Thank you so much, and yeah, good luck. And let us know what you think of the stuff that we recommended too.
Yes,
anyway,
yes.
thanks.
We love the feedback.
And yeah, absolutely. Peace out, everyone. See you soon. Bye.
Peace.